Hello, I'm Stephen Kristof, author of Feeling Normal Again, a post-pandemic guide to emotional health. On this podcast, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what this book is all about, who can benefit from it, whether or not you should make the investment to read it. And I say investment because it's a self-help book. It's a self-transformational book, really, and it's all presented within the context of this pandemic, this awful 2+ year pandemic that we've been through and everything that came along with it, that frankly, we're all exhausted from it. We feel battered, we feel changed in many ways, and frankly, people are just wanting to feel normal again. So that's what that's the context of the book. Of course, beyond that, the context is post-pandemic, so moving beyond the pandemic. Dr. Fauci is suggesting, it's early 2022, that within this calendar year, it will no longer be a pandemic. We're going to move out of it. And whether that happens, hopefully, or we are, as some feel, going to continue to learn to live with COVID in some of the lesser strains such as Omicron and so on and so forth. The reality is life goes on, and we need to move on. We need to move on, in our own lives personally and globally, as a global citizen, looking for hope, feeling hope, enjoying life again. So that's the framework. Realistically, there are tons of different tools and strategies that provide pathways to emotional healing, emotional health, and wellness, and coming along with that, of course, physical wellness, physical health, and so, the context is that of post-pandemic. Really, I believe that anybody could read this 3 or 5 years from now and get an awful lot out of it, because when you look at it, the bottom line is that the techniques and tools that are presented are going to work just as well now as they will years from now when we're not dealing with this stuff anymore. But at this point, it's a very useful, very timely book, in particular because so many people have been beaten down from this pandemic. Now, as far as how it works and who will benefit from it, I think that it has a very broad appeal. I think that the audience obviously it's an adult book in terms of the age level, 18 and up, and yet I think it's a very, very wide audience that's going to benefit from it. Look, the reality is, after dealing not only with the physical aspects, and in some cases long-term COVID effects and things like that, but moreover, the roller coaster that we've been on, creating a whiplash effect and wave after wave, and then we think we've got it beat, and then there's something else, another variant, and so on and so forth, and all of the various controls and restrictions that we've had to live with, they take their toll, and frankly, it's unreasonable to think that somebody could get through all of that and not have been changed in terms of their thought process, the way that they feel about things, just generally in terms of resilience and hope, and a host of other emotional challenges that come along with this. It's unreasonable to think that we would come out of this unscathed. So if you're feeling down, if you're feeling like you're trying to find that normal again, and it's just not there, it's not your fault. First of all, it's not your fault. There are all sorts of other people in this world who are feeling the same way. And the other thing, though, is in terms of healing, it's very difficult to heal from something or from a variety of challenges if you don't know what's challenging you. And that's the other thing that my book does, is it presents an awful lot of indicators that will help you hopefully see where you may need a little nudge, where you might need, a point in the right direction. And then, of course, some tools, easy to apply, not onerous, not difficult, easy to apply tools and strategies that can make a difference in your life and the way you feel about right now and the future, the way you feel about your life very quickly. And that's what I wanted to do, is to make sure that this is something that is accessible and available to anyone. It's easy to read, it's easy to apply, and I think that you can find that it's easy to see yourself in as well. The feedback that I've been receiving has been excellent. And one thing that I'm hearing time and time again is that people are feeling that they're in control again, that they didn't understand why they still felt so awful or down in a variety of ways. But now, after reading the book, they can see themselves in it, and they see a path forward. That's crucial. The other thing that I'm hearing a lot of is that people are thanking me for giving them hope and for restoring faith. Let's face it, living in a world without hope is an awful place to be. And living in our own emotional selves without hope is an equally awful place to be. So this book provides that. And I will give you, we don't want to give spoilers in book talks, but I will give you one spoiler. And that's that as the book comes to a close, I have some stories in there and some reflection, and it will leave you feeling a whole lot more positive about your life and about the future. I think that's something that we need so dearly right now, and I think it's an excellent investment in your own life. I have had this several times now. This people are messaging me. What inspired you to write this book? Excuse me. The inspiration came really out of a sense of need. Personally, I just recently finished a TV interview, and I had that question. And the interview asked, and so what inspired you to write this book? And I gave an answer that was accurate, but afterward, and watching myself on the program, I thought, well, that's kind of pithy. But it's true. I was actually cleaning my garage. It was spring, I think, and something that, a task I hate. If you have the luxury of having a garage, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's one of the worst jobs around, at least for me it is, because, we gather all this stuff and it's like, okay, where do I put it now? Or throw it away, and I know I'm going to need that as soon as I throw it away, right? It's just this human nature. But I'm in the garage, and I'm kind of just with my own thoughts, and all of a sudden, I just had this epiphany, and I thought, you know what? Everybody I talk with in my social network, my colleagues of mine, things I hear and read in the media, I keep hearing this common refrain that life just doesn't feel normal anymore. And so I started putting these things together. I thought, my goodness, what an opportunity to help people through a book that specifically focuses on this idea of getting back to normal. So that's what my inspiration was. Now, just a quick note about normal. We keep hearing this thing, and we've heard it since the beginning of the pandemic, this thing about new normal. Let me assure you that my book does not present to the reader this concept of a new normal that is less happy, less hopeful, or more restricted than what we used to say was the old normal, right? People like to talk about that. People like to say, the world has changed forever, and our lives are going to change forever, and it's a very negative kind of feeling. Here's the deal, that normal for me is different than normal for anybody else, and vice versa, right? We all have our own sense of normality. But the other thing to consider is that what's normal for me today, right now, was not normal for me yesterday. And it certainly wasn't normal for me 3 years ago. In other words, we change, right? Right? We're flexible, we adapt, we're malleable people. And the reality is that our normal changes all the time. So for somebody to say, hey, this is a new normal you have to live with, my book does, I think, a really good job of picking that into pieces and saying, come on, really, our normal changes all the time. What we need to focus on is making our current selves, our current perspectives, as productive, as happy as can be. And that's really what this is all about. As far as political, I've been asked by some people, we're in a very political climate. Is this book political? The book is not political. It's not. I couldn't write a book like this and say, It's hey, Republican, or hey, Democrat, or liberal, left or right, or whatever. That's not what this book is about. There are certain truths that are discussed, because in any self-help book, there are truths that we need to admit to and to look at. Like one, for instance, is the division in our society, and it's not just here or there. This division, this divisiveness, is something that's been building, and it is in pockets globally. It's not a positive thing. It doesn't help us personally in terms of not only our outlook, but how we feel about things. It doesn't help us globally in terms of our fellow person. We are a global citizen. How are we treating each other? So there are some things, that we look at there as a means to improve ourselves and our disposition, our emotions. But it's not a political book per se. All right. One final thing, and before I close on this, is just the idea of hope and faith. And if I've learned anything through all of the research that I've done for this book, and talking to many people, talking with many people, and trying to really synthesize it all and put it into something that everybody can benefit from. One thing I've learned is that hope and faith are ultimately so important in terms of determining how we feel on a daily basis. And so, yes, I would invite you to make the investment in this book. Check it out. I know that you're going to find a lot in it that you will see yourself in, a lot that will be things that can improve. And who doesn't want that? So that's what I have for you today in this podcast. Again, the book, Feeling Normal Again, a Post-Pandemic Guide to Emotional Health. It's available on Amazon and in select bookstores. Thank you very much for your time, and take care.